Example, Al Sharpton. What do you think about Al Sharpton? You know, a lot of people take issue with Al Sharpton. Black and white folks take issue with Al Sharpton. You know, they don't like him. They don't like his style. You know, they don't like his way. And that's real interesting. He kind of, you know, I mean, I'm kind of glad he's a brother and he's making it and he's successful and has a TV show. There are a lot of folks on TV that, you know, we might not appreciate, but I think we're a little bit harder on Brother Al than we are on many of the other folks that have their TV programs. But you know, he is loud and he is kind of yelling and he's kind of demanding and all this, and that does tick a lot of folks off, his style and all. But I want to give you something to think about. I want to share with you, maybe picture this, an old samurai, you know, an old warrior. A warrior was something in his day. And he was successful in his day, and with his fellow samurais, he was in there taking care of business, protecting, you know, and getting things done. But the samurai became old, and so then another, as he's an old samurai, and most of his friends are dead, passed on, that another threat has come to threaten his people, his land. But there's no one else trained. There's no one else picking up a sword to fight the enemy. The younger men, see, when the samurai was young, he was sharp and he was there. He was taking care of business. But now the samurai is old and there is another threat to his land. But there's no one there to pick up a sword. And so this old samurai gets his old stuff off, dusts off his armor, grabs his weapons, and goes out to face this enemy. And so then the younger people, the younger people of the day are looking at this old samurai. People don't even wear those clothes anymore. They don't even wear that type of armor anymore. They don't even use those type of weapons anymore. And they begin ridiculing that samurai. But you know, if there was somebody else to pick up a sword, if there was somebody else to pick up that baton, if there was somebody else to do what needed to be done, a younger person, like he once was, he wouldn't have to. As when I look at Al Sharpton today, as much as people are criticizing him as far as his way, his demeanor, that basically he's doing something he shouldn't be doing if the young people were stepping up and doing today what he did when he was younger. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And so he's doing what he can do because there is no one else stepping up. That's all I'm saying. So anyone that criticizes this man, it's pure hypocrisy if you're not doing something yourself and saying he should be doing it this way. Because I'm suggesting today, and you know, as I've done on many programs, that the way of the 60s, you know, the protesting and the marching and the yelling and all that, even Dr. Martin Luther King and all the people that were with him, surrounded by him and walking to D.C. and the bus boycotts and all that stuff that they were a part of, that was for then. That's not for now, okay? I think the problem we have is that folks think that's the way to do it now because we have this old samurai. We have Al Sharpton there, you know, just doing what he knows to do. And people are following him because they want results. What I'm suggesting today, we need to be able to look at this time and to try to understand that just as what Martin Luther King and them did back in the late 60s and all, in the mid to late 60s and all, it couldn't happen today. But by the same token, it couldn't have happened 10 years prior to that or 20 years prior to that. They would have just been taken out. They probably would have been killed. But what Martin Luther King and the people that were with him, his peers, his contemporaries did at that time, when they did it, that was the time for that. That time isn't now. Another example, like the Black Panthers for self-defense out of Oakland, the things that they were doing, they were being terribly abused by the police. And so they had a right to bear arms, and so they got a little bit educated in the legal system, and they began carrying arms and challenging the police, following the police around. And they had a constitutional right. They had a right. And they would quote it to the police. Now we know, and it worked. Now we know that wouldn't work today because there'd just be a lot of dead brothers, you know, with guns, and the police would be exonerated. We know that. So there was a time and a place for everything. There was a time back when, you know, there was the talk of insurrection or revolution. You know, black folks in America. I know a lot of folks were concerned about that. I remember back in the 70s. People were always concerned, especially white folks, concerned that there was going to be a revolution one day. And that was very interesting. And I believe it had the American government kind of concerned as well. That's why there was so much FBI surveillance and so much disinformation and the intent on disrupting and discrediting and destroying so many black organizations back in the day. But I'm telling you now, with the technology we have today, and the drones and the eavesdropping devices, there was no way that situation could exist today, okay? So we know there can't be that threat of revolution or that threat of insurrection or any of that kind of stuff, because that would be squashed immediately. As far as the protesting, the walking, I mean, come on now, we've seen in Ferguson, we've seen in Baltimore, we've seen all over this nation that doesn't work anymore. Come on now. So we have to then look at the situations that we're facing today and just ask ourselves, the baton is sitting there. And if we want to compare this to a relay race, I remember my son used to run track, and I really enjoy watching that relay race. And so it would be like one of them would be running, and he'd come around the track, and then the other one would be matching them, at that same speed, and then grab that baton and take off, and that was the relay race, okay? But imagine a giant track. And the track looks different, it's more of a terrain, and it's more of a natural track. And the terrain is not the same. When you go to a high school, you go to Welcome Stadium or something, you just have this, this oblong track there that just it's measured and it's even, and you know what's coming around the corner. What I'm suggesting today is this baton race in the civil rights movement, in the Black Power movement, in the human rights movement in the United States of America is not even, and it's not measured, and it's different, okay? And so whatever the race, how it was run prior to it came to each point, it was always different. The race from slavery to the slaves getting themselves educated, learning to read, learning to write, and the sacrifices and the sufferings that they had to go through. That part of the race was different than after emancipation. They still had sufferings, but it was different kinds of sufferings. Okay. The Jim Crow era, where there was so much mistreatment, so much unfair treatment. It was a terrible situation, but it was different than the situation right after emancipation, which was a terrible situation, but different than the situation during slavery, and so on. We recognize that. So each part of this baton passing on this relay race of wellness for the African Americans in this nation, the terrain is different, okay? And you can't survive the current terrain by using practices and tactics from past terrains, okay? And that's all I'm saying. What we have here today, we have to wake up, we have to wise up. And we can retire the Al Sharptons because he ran his part of the race. But now he's trying to run ours because we're not stepping up, okay? And so I'm just suggesting, my suggestion is just looking at this situation. Now, there have to be some ideas. My idea is simply this, that there has been a lot of suffering, there has been a lot of sacrifice, there has been a lot of running this relay race through this process up so far. So where are we now, and what direction are we supposed to go? See, I think at this particular time we need to wise up ourselves first. We need to get ourselves together. I know we talked about this, and that slogan, Black Lives Matter, we're walking around chanting that. But oftentimes in the black communities, the way that we're conducting ourselves, the way that we're conducting our own lives, our own personal business, it doesn't seem like Black Lives Matter to us. Why are we overweight? Why are we addicted? Why aren't we home? Why aren't we taking care of our kids? Why aren't we working? Why aren't we responsible? I know many of us are. But I'm saying let's just make a list in our lives of the issues that we have and determine, do black lives really matter to us? Are we really taking care of our own business? And then if we can check most of those check marks off in our own lives, and how are we responding to the black lives in our community? I mean, we're asking white folks and other folks that black lives matter. Well, do they matter to us? I mean, how much are we willing to do for the black lives in our community? How much are we willing to invest? If we're okay, or if we have strengths in certain areas, are we just putting that out there for somebody else to take up the slack? It's us. I was speaking to a couple of young people recently who seem energized, ready to do something in this community and in this nation. And my first My first task was to motivate them to understand that when we look at these history books, when we look at the Martin Luther Kings, when we look at the Malcolm X's, Stokely Carmichaels, and we go all the way back, through the course of history, all the way to Nat Turner, and Harriet Tubman, and all these people, that we have to recognize that they're no different than we are. They're just like us. They're just human beings. One head, two arms, two legs, thoughts, emotions. But recognize that it was their time. It was their time in that relay race to do a thing. What I'm suggesting today is we're no different than they are. It's very difficult for us to believe sometimes that I can be anything greater than, as great as those folks that I read about. But they were just like you. Martin Luther King was like in his 20s when that bus boycott thing went down. These were relatively young people, just regular folks. Historically, whatever we read historically about people that have done great things, they've just been ordinary people that made a determination that this is what I need to do, that it's me, the buck stopped with me. And so I think that's the first step we need to realize, is that we are the ones to pick up the baton. You are the one to pick up the baton. I am the one to pick up the baton. We're sitting around, we're talking about our young people today, how jacked up they are. We're talking about the police forces today, how jacked up they are. About our white folks, how jacked up they are. About our black folks, how jacked up we are. And we're going through all this, talking about people, overseas and even within our own borders, citizens that we don't believe should have they have the same rights as everyone else. We have all these opinions, but we're doing nothing. I'm saying it's time to pick up that baton and do something. I think the first step is to begin to clean up our own act. I've shared many times, about 2.5 years ago, the terrible abdominal injury that I had. And the determination that I had that I was just going to work out and just work that illness right out of me. Pray, believe, and meditate, but really work out. I had to put my hand, it wasn't just enough to think about it. I had to do something. And it was painful as I was working out because I had gotten lazy. I had gotten lazy. I had gotten acquiesced to, I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, eating what I want to eat, and this is just what I do every day after work. But I had to make a determination that I was going to get up, that nobody was going to handle this situation but me. I was the one suffering. It was my gut. I was hurting. And if I hadn't handled things, nobody else would. Now, I was advised by family members and friends, you probably have a terrible hernia, you need to go to the doctor, you need to go to the doctor. Go somewhere else to get fixed. Have someone else fix it. Have someone else fix it. That's like the prevailing mindset of anything that goes down. Just relinquishing ourselves of the responsibility to take care of business ourselves. I mean, come on, we're extremely overweight and our knees are hurting. Well, go to the doctor and get surgery. No, lose some weight. Oh, my cholesterol's up, my blood pressure's up, I'm having heart issues and all this. Go to the doctor, have surgery. No, why don't you change your diet, exercise? See, whatever it takes outside of me picking up that baton and doing something for myself, that's where I'm at. I think that's a poor position that we're in as African Americans today. And I can psychologically try to determine how it came from slavery, how even though we were the workers, we were still taken care of by the master, we were still given a place to live and food to eat. And so, we can go there. But let's forget all these reasons why we might be there subconsciously and just come to a realization of this is where we're at right now. It doesn't matter how we got here. And see, when we consider all the conspiracy theorists and all those blames, you can go on the internet and just look at the brothers on there, and maybe I was one of those at one time. We can sit there and find a way to blame the white man or blame this situation or that situation for the ills of our lives, but the reality is this is where we're at. How do we get out of this mess? Because I guarantee you, we can link our situation today back to slavery, to Jim Crow, to all these issues, and even the entitlements and handouts that they gave to white folks. Giving them acres and acres of land for free, and all that. The entitlements they got, which is why they're where they're at today. But the reality is this is where we're at now, and nobody's going to help us. Nobody's going to fix our situation. We have to stop looking for a handout. We're not handicapped. We have to recognize that if we are taking handouts right now, it's temporary to allow us to get ourselves together for real. For real. And that's where I'm at. Because as I say in most programs, what we need to do right now is first of all, we need to quit committing any kind of crimes, even petty crimes. And I know most of us as African Americans don't commit crimes, but we need to go overboard and make sure we're living a pretty moral life, especially in front of our children. So we need to quit committing any kind of crimes. Quit getting the buzz. Quit getting high. That's a crime. That's not just a crime, a legal crime, but it's also, do Black Lives Matter? If they matter, then why are you destroying yourself? Why are you destroying your mind with those drugs? For real. Alcohol, we really need to stop. Alcohol, I mean, come on, alcohol, yeah, that's legal. Yeah, it's legal, but is it good? Is it, well, come on, what effect is it having on you, and how much time is it taking away from what you could be doing to better our situation? See, again, the alcohol is the thing, at the end of the race. We're not at the end of the race. We're in the middle of this race. That baton is laying there on the floor, and we're sitting here getting a buzz. We need to stop. This is not the time for that. There's an old saying, I think it's a biblical saying, about how there's a time for everything, a season for this and a season for that. There is a season for partying, there is a season for relaxation, but this is not that season. The baton is laying there, the race isn't over, but we've acquiesced to, oh well, this is, I guess, where I'm going to pitch my tent. This is not that place, the race is not over.